call it, blog or whatever. Yeah, it took me almost a decade to record this story, and I just want to tell what happened to me and hopefully help others in the way, and help as many people as possible to recover from this, what they call Lyme disease or chronic diseases, which honestly, I just still cannot believe what I've been through. Gonna try to tell the story as best as I can because I'm still not fully recovered, but I'm still, in the way and in the process to do that. So yeah, I mean, in my mid 20s kind of thing, I started having bloating, anxiety, incredible, like huge amounts of fatigue, which I didn't know where it came from. I didn't know why it was happening. By then, I didn't understand. So, my boyfriend at the time was telling me, like, something's wrong with you, but I don't know what it is. Um, I was working as a hairdresser, which didn't make things any better because, well, the only thing I could tell is that chemicals were actually killing me. And yeah, and that went on and on for a long time. Sometimes I would be so tired, especially during hormonal times, that I would get lost. And I would get like minutes where I didn't know where I was. And obviously that was scaring the hell out of me, no? So yeah, the years went on, and around when I was 32 or so, I suddenly crashed. So much so I couldn't move. I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't move my body, and I spent like probably a year along finding out I had a thyroid as well, and my hormones being in a total mess. And yeah, um, at the time, I didn't, I already didn't believe in conventional medicine, thanks God. But I went for the first time, and basically just it was so bad, like so much so that yeah, I had it very clear that if I wanted to survive, what at the time was the worst that I ever lived, I had to start studying and I had to find out what was going on with me. But that was a really, really, really long process where, my boyfriend at the time was like confused on what was going on. He was kind of really, in many ways, rude to me, not understanding the fact that I just, when you're like that, your nervous system has blown up, you just, yeah. Well, moving forward, I was constantly bleeding. I couldn't move my body. I was dizzy. I had a massive, insane, out of this planet headache, which lasted a year. A year into the migraine, you know, I just couldn't cope anymore. And all I knew was that the environment was affecting me. So that's when we moved to the countryside, kind of, which was the only option we had at the time, thanks to my mom's boyfriend. We had like a small house we went to. It was a rough place to be, but much better without all the environmental toxins, chemicals. Really slowly, I started peeling the onion, thinking, well, what could this be? That's when you go to ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and all these weird, extremely weird diagnoses, which no one knows really what they are, right? Um, but thanks God I had the time to study. I was studying 24/7 and unable to move, but at least I used the time to do so. And I did get better, but by the time I was like one of those Kinder eggs, um, or better, one of these, how you call it, matryoshka kind of dolls that you have many, many layers. So the big layer was about to explode, no? So 2 years into this, I went to wash my hair one day, and out of nowhere, I just felt the most ridiculous feeling that my body was just completely falling apart, and the wall just turned upside down. There was so much toxicity. I had like blood poisoning, and I got so scared because I couldn't tell my name. I couldn't tell my mom's name. I didn't know my own name. All my vision just became distorted. I didn't know. I couldn't tell what was in front of me. It was like, if you ever taken something that was kind of hallucinogenic in a way. That's exactly how it felt. I felt poisoned so deeply that my heart was beating to such an extent that I thought I was having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe. But there are no words to explain that state, because it is just such an extreme, out of this planet, extreme situation to be in, that just thinking about that moment just gives me the worst goosebumps ever, you know. I lost all my hair, which, being a hairdresser, was kind of, you know, yeah, I've done all this, which, judge me or not, at least the color gives me happiness or whatever. But yeah, so really slowly, a few weeks went by in the worst hellish situation ever, which brought me to decide to go to kind of an ER, or however you call it. And basically, I just didn't know what was going on with me. And all I could think, because of the symptoms, is I'm having a severe form of encephalitis and some sort of extreme blood poisoning, no? And exactly that's what they told me. Yeah, you have a blood poisoning situation. We're gonna do this, but we are not sure why. We don't know why. And they just basically started treating me like if I was crazy. Like, well, I think every Lyme patient has felt this in one way or another, and especially if you're weird, weird looking or whatever. People are so much into judging people that is still crazy to me, no? And yeah, um, that was just absolute chaos. Like, I knew what was happening to me, and I thought at one point, well, this must be Lyme disease. And surely enough, that's what it was. But let's define later on what really Lyme disease is, because that's also another mess, which I'm really not happy about. No. Um, at one point, I was just, I mean, I felt that I was dying and losing my mind at the same time, and just holding to the floor and trying not to kill myself every second, or disalive myself. Sorry, YouTube. I hope that's okay, because apparently we're not allowed to say really what happens, but that's how it goes. So um, it was just chaotic. We came back from the town to the city, let's say, where I was before, which was a really, really toxic environment. Obviously, I got a lot worse. Radiation was affecting me, toxins were affecting me, the lack of contact with everything was affecting me. But I was so bad at this point that I just didn't know what to do, and my boyfriend was also like petrified, no, not understanding, not knowing. What really hurt me is that he did not believe in me, which happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. And also, the good side of this is that we really get to see what kind of people we have around us. And yeah, so eventually, well, I was trying to find a place where I could start healing. I knew it was Lyme. I couldn't find any, let's call, doctor that could possibly help me at the time. Um, my aunt, because she really is also, um, really, really, really did help. And she did believe me, same as my mom. They were the only two persons that were believing me. And it was really hard to understand, and I get it, because I still can believe how it was, and I still can understand how on earth do you explain this to someone, and how do you explain such a living to yourself. So I went into the Lyme disease group in the Spanish site, and I type in my symptoms, and I was basically asking if anyone was having the same symptoms as me. And I didn't have many answers. In fact, I got a lot of bad answers, and people just not, you know, I couldn't even type. I was just making a mess. My mom typed it for me, and yeah. And then slowly, privately, not in public, people started replying and saying, "Yeah, I had those symptoms. That's exactly how I lived them. you're not going nuts. It's just the way it works, and you have inflammation from these infections, toxins, and so on. My nervous system was just basically blown out of what I mean. I can't even describe how this feels, because you just feel like you're dying. And actually, I was, at that point. So it took a long time. And yeah, and in the way, I had really horrific encounters with really, really extremely ignorant medical doctors, which were not believing me and were not believing many others. But because of the kind of symptoms I was having, which were really neurological along the body, the whole thing, it was scary. It was scary because they could just say, "Oh, well, you're nuts," and just leave you there dying. And the way they treated me, the way they are treating many others, is such a shameful idea that I just thinking about it now makes me want to throw up. Really, yeah. But then I found myself in another really weird situation, which was the alternative, or what they call alternative, which is not medicine, is also can also be really at the extreme, not understanding that sometimes to heal a person you need all of it, the whole thing. I mean, energetically, homeopathy, diet, place, emotions, parasites, mold, candida, all these things. Before you understand this, you might fall into the trap where you think, well, it's Lyme disease, therefore I have to kill all the infection, kill all the bugs in my body, kill. But that's another story for another video, or many others that hopefully I can make, so I can help other people survive it, get through it, and not make the same mistakes that many do, that because of ignorance end up sometimes in a really bad place, or sometimes killing people that should not. Yeah. Anyway, moving forward, we found a place in a friend's, or suppose I thought it was a friend at the time, which lived in the country, and that's when, well, it was the pandemic era, let's say. And yeah, was basically there for, I can't even remember, because I was so bad at the time, and trying to find a, you know a, I still had the hope that I could still find someone that could possibly help me. And because I couldn't use my brain, I couldn't use my knowledge, I was just lost, no. Yeah, so that's how it went. We went to this friend's house. It was really messy. We couldn't move around. Had I was still following a very strict diet with, it wasn't the right one, but it was like at least chemical free and so on. And my mom was sending me stuff over, and we couldn't move around. And it was just, so the tension between me and what was my ex-boyfriend now was getting increasingly like really bad, right? Which was horrific for me, because I didn't even know where I was. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit too much, right? And then the people around him were also telling him, well, this kind of thing doesn't exist, blah blah blah, and just saying horrible things that it just gives me goosebumps. I couldn't defend myself, I couldn't talk for myself, but I knew exactly what was going on with me. I just had to find the right doctor, someone who could finally tell me, hey, you're right, let's start this. I also have my own vision on it, apart from, which, yeah. Anyway, moving forward, the situation like exploded. I was spending the days just holding to the floor, praying the gods, something, the universe, that I would wake up the next day, and some other day just praying that I would not wake up, because I couldn't bear a second more of that torture. No, it was such an intense torture that, I mean, I know now that the levels of inflammation in my brain and body at the time, I'm kind of surprised I'm alive. I should not be. But somehow, while no one believed in me, it was just horrific. Then I found a doctor from a very important, let's call it, hospital in Barcelona. He was basically telling me, yes, this happens to people, this exists, and it's due to environmental toxicity. Um, but don't bother into going to conventional medical doctors. They don't have a clue, and they can even kill you. So I mean, apart from treating you terribly wrong, yeah. So yeah, so the situation with my, I don't even know how to call him at this point, boyfriend, whatever. I let's say I finally saw his true colors, which were not good. I understand situations can be hard, but you ask for help and you don't act the way he did. But that's, you know, I want to believe that was for the best, and it is. And yeah, so after that, apart from having, my friend in the house we were staying not believing me either and just treating me incredibly wrong, not understanding the situation, not understanding any of the things I lived. And yeah, so I went back to the flat. That was actually the starting point that was kind of killing me at the time. And that's when, actually the healing started there. And, my mom had to quit her job. We didn't know how to do it. It was just me and her. The rest of the family, apart from this aunt, which I'm incredibly grateful for, and my mom's boyfriend, which has always been there, and I'm incredibly grateful for as well. And very, very, sorry, very few people that actually stayed there. Then I started receiving phone calls from people that actually went through this, and telling me that their stories and saying, hey, hold on. In particular, one guy that basically phoned me every day till today. I'm still not 100%, but almost, and definitely out of hell. And that time was just, really, really incredibly tough. So he did. I mean, he's an angel as well. One of these people that appeared at the time and just somehow managed, same as I did for others at the time, to so we could resist. So we didn't unalive ourselves at any second. No. I mean, my liver was completely congested, which caused even more inflammation, making me have. It was like literally like being possessed by some sort of, I don't even know, something. And that's what parasites do. They do trouble to your nervous system, to your brain, and they change human behavior to such an extent. Mold can do the same. Yeah. Um, in at one point, we thought, well, we have to do something. And after some failing with some doctors, which finally ended up telling me, well, I know what's going on with you, but this is too big for me, so I'm sorry that you have to find someone else. And that someone else was not appearing. And, well, then it's hard to remember this bit because it was wild, like really wild. I mean, I didn't have memory. I couldn't write. I couldn't think. And every minute, microsecond of the day was pure torture, but to such an extent that no one would imagine. People telling me, well, oh well, at least you don't have cancer. And I was shocked because, I mean, I'm not, I'm, it's got nothing, it is such a brutal thing, which people are so unaware that the worst thing that people can think that you can possibly have is that. There are far worse things that you can possibly have, right? But they are not recognized. We are just not recognized, and that causes a lot of trouble because when we did ask help to some members of family, which this is very common, by the way, in the Lyme community, not being believed by family members or being, you're just not, you can even think. So everything that is possibly there, you're gonna say, you're gonna do, and you feel the need to feel protected and to feel understood. And these eye bags are from my liver, which is still not fully okay, but it will. also making the videos kind of hard because one of the main symptoms I had from Bartonella, from all the inflammation, parasites, blah blah blah, was a really strange symptom called depersonalization and this realization, which is just like you're so intoxicated, your inflammation is so high, you don't perceive reality. You just feel like you're in a dream constantly. It's such a nightmare situation to be in that it just, again, it gives me goosebumps to think, no? And every day now I keep receiving, like, I mean, mails and things from people that they had post-COVID, they had, it doesn't matter, disinflammation